Good morning, everyone. June Allen here, your racial sobriety mentor and lover of what I do. So, for those of you that have just joined, I am so happy to be here. Hi, thanks for joining. So, I teach Black women who struggle with self-love, sisterhood and sobriety. So welcome to all of you newcomers, whether you're watching live or on the replay, and welcome to my old seasoned sisters who have been rocking with me for a while. Thank you again for hanging out with me this morning. So today I want to talk to you about how to heal. Okay, how can you heal with other Black women when you don't trust them? Okay, how can you heal with other Black women when you don't trust them? I hear this phrase all the time. I've had people come and slide into my DMs for different reasons, and they struggle. It's something that they struggle with, and so this is something that I talk about quite openly. So today I wanted to come on and share with you some tools and some things that you can do to think about. What you can do if you struggle, if you want to heal with other Black women and you just don't know how to go about it, and you don't know what to do. So before I get into that, I'm just going to give you a little bit of housekeeping. Hi, thanks for joining. Hi Naomi, thanks for joining. So the first thing that I want to let you know, obviously I run a wellness mastermind for Black women. Absolutely love running that space. And at the moment, I'm offering a 90-day pass at standard level for you to get into the mastermind. There's an amazing library with 100 plus masterclasses, live streams, loads of amazing things in there. Also, you get access to one live masterclass per month and also one live Q&A per month. So, and obviously this month is where you get an extra session because I'm doing like an end of year wellness party for with like a prizes, and there's like a quiz that we're going to be doing at the end of the month as well, at the end of December. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yes, there's a 90-day pass, and it's normally £201. I normally charge 67 a month for a standard level, but I'm offering you it for £97 for 3 months. That is an absolute steal. So if you're interested in joining us in the mastermind for the next 3 months, you can have a little taste and see how you get on with it. That's only at standard level though. So you can click the link in the bio and go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So that's the 90-day pass. So the other bit of housekeeping that I have is this Sunday is the healing circle in the mastermind, where we just check in with each other to see how we're doing, and we also focus on the characteristics of self-hate, the tools of self-love, and the gifts of sacred self-love. Okay, so if you're interested in joining us for that session as well, obviously as soon as you join, you get access to joining the classes at that particular level. That's not part of the standard level though, that one. So you're gonna have to you'd have to upgrade and do the sister experience or queen experience if you wanted to get access to the healing circle as well. The healing circle is part of the level where we meet every single week. Every Sunday evening from 5 till 7 we meet and we hang out and we do different things. You get all the master classes and everything included as well, but you get the healing circle as well. So anyway, all the different levels and stuff are in the link. So if you go there, you can find out which level suits your budget, and then you can decide which is right for you. The other thing, the last bit of housekeeping that I have is that obviously we're in December now, so a lot of us are probably thinking about what we're going to do for the holidays. How is it going to pan out? What we're going to do around family members and stuff like that. Sometimes this time of year is very difficult for people to decide how they're going to manage their time, who they're going to hang out with, and all of that kind of stuff. And in the library, last month I did a series of workshops and masterclasses around how to manage, how to set boundaries around difficult family members and stuff like that. And those replays are all available now in the library. So again, you get access to all of that as well if you're struggling with how to manage your time over the Christmas period. So that is the housekeeping out of the way. So those of you that have just joined, my name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So today's topic, okay, is a bit of a deep one. I'm going to be sharing with you what to do, how you can heal with Black women when you don't trust them. Okay, How are you going to heal with black women when you don't trust them? And I hear this a lot. As I was saying at the beginning, I hear this a lot from, you know, from new ladies that come in, and it's something that they feel really anxious about. They want to know if they're going to be received, if they're going to be judged, all of that kind of stuff, and it's really, really difficult. So I'm going to share with you 5 things that you can do. Okay, 5 things for you to think about as a way for you to how you can move through this and how you can get the support that you need, and look at some of the things that are troubling you around why it's so difficult for you to embrace the concept of healing with black women. Okay, so the first one is not to focus on the group, but to focus on what is being triggered in you, what is coming alive in you as a result of the thought of coming into this group. Okay, that is the first place for you to start, because when you think about this, and I know for me it was an issue for me at one point years ago, when I before I started doing a lot of this work, it was a real issue for me, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, I kept thinking about how the other person was going to behave, as opposed to, or being fearful about how the other person was going to behave, instead of thinking about, okay, well, what is coming alive in me? What is it triggering in me from the past? Now, obviously, I've had, you know, if you're aware of my work, you know that I've talked quite openly about the difficulties that I've had, you know, in my relationship with my mum and stuff like that, and so that was what that was about. It was a mother wound trigger. It was an old trigger. So that pain that I was carrying, especially when I hadn't done a lot of therapy work around it, it was just getting projected out onto other black women, and my fear was that they were going to treat me the same way, or I was going to find it difficult to connect with them like I have with the same in the relationship with my mum. So, you know, when I sort of began to understand that, then it sort of gave me some sort of context as to what that was about. So it wasn't really about the other people, it was really about me. Looking at the old wounds, okay? So the other things that might come up that are around it might be stuff that happened when you were at school. You know, maybe, you know, I've worked with women that were bullied in school. The colorism conversation comes up a lot when we talk about this, okay? So it might be that, you know, I mean, I've had conversations with women that are light skinned women were bullied by black girls that were dark skinned. You know, very, very painful conversations to have. But, you know, there's been several occasions where I've had biracial women message me and say, you know, I'm a biracial woman, would I be welcome, is it okay, and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, I feel for them. I mean, obviously I've written them back and said, you know, it's absolutely fine, and to have that conversation, but it's a source of anxiety that if they come into the group, that somehow that they're going to be bullied, that they're not going to be accepted for being light skinned than the other women in the group, and it's something that they were maybe bullied at when they were at school, or maybe their siblings as well. I've heard that the colorism gets, you know, that which I believe is internalized racism again. It gets thrown around in the family, and it's very painful. It's very painful, and a lot of times, you know, it gets minimized. They don't really want, you know, they don't really talk about it. And again, these are hard conversations to have. But, you know, you have to, part of the healing process and part of the whole conversation around self-love and self-acceptance is being able to have these honest conversations with yourself, and being able to have those honest conversations in the group. And there is space for that in the group. And I've always encouraged the women to talk about that. You know, we've had many, many conversations about colorism and about internalized racism and stuff like that, which is really, really important, because you know, if you want to heal, you have to be willing to, the space has to be safe to have those conversations. So the fact that I'm the one that's bringing up those conversations, that I'm the one that's introducing and encouraging the women to be honest with themselves and to share in the group, I feel really anxious about this. I feel really anxious about this, and I need to share my truth. And it works. You know, it really, really works. The fact that that space has become a safe place to be able to share that stuff. And it's important to say as well that, you know, I've had quite a few of the women that, you know, the seasoned sisters, as I like to call them, you know, that in the beginning they've said to me, oh, you know, I know you're saying that, you know, the group will be safe and the group will be all right. And they're like kind of, yeah, whatever. And they've had to, you know, we kind of laugh about it now. We laugh about it now because they understand now what I was talking about. But at the time, they didn't really believe that it could be possible. They didn't really believe that, you know, black women could actually come together, talk about things, but be really vulnerable, talk about things that are really painful, that are intimate, and not be judged for it, you know, and not be judged for it. So, you know, that's really comforting for me, because it just means that, you know, all of the work and the love and the energy that I've put into creating the space, the women are experiencing that. And that feels really, really nice. And hi, Auntie Chi, thanks for joining. So I just feel really, really grateful for that. I just feel really grateful for that. So that's number one, okay? Don't focus on the group, focus on what's coming alive in you, okay? That's number one. So number two is to explore what impact has it had on your self-esteem and your cultural esteem. You know, it's important to really think about that, because until you really understand the impact that it's had on you, you're not going to be able to express and articulate and be really honest about what impact that it's had on your life. Has it impacted, you know, how you choose your partners, consciously or unconsciously? Has it impacted how you parent? You know, there's a lot of things that are important for you to get honest about in order to work through this. So you have to really look at what impact this has had on your life. The fact that you've had whatever the wounds are, whether it is your, you know, parent wound, or whether it's a sibling wound, or whether it's stuff that's happened at school, you know, the fact that this has had an impact on your identity as a black woman is something that really does need to be spoken about and talked about, because you can't heal with other black women unless you're clear about the impact that it's had on you. And you might not understand it in the beginning, you know, before you come into the group, you might not understand it in the beginning. But what I'm saying is, part of the process is actually giving yourself permission to explore it, so that you can then think about, okay, well then what behaviors do I need to change in order to start to embrace myself? What are the things that I need to do in order to have more self-acceptance and stuff like that? So being really, really, really connected to the truth about who you are, and just be willing and be open to have those conversations about how it's impacted you, again, is another really important way of breaking that block that you have around healing with other black women. Okay, so the next one, number three, is finding a safe space. You know, I know I talk about this a lot, but it's just, there is no healing without safety. There is no healing without safety. So you need to find a safe space. A safe space is something that is boundaried, okay? Is boundaried, meaning that, like, okay, so I'll give you some examples of how I do this in the mastermind. So you have to feel that you feel comfortable that you're going to be working at your own pace, okay, that you're held in a space, that you're going to be working at your own space. No one's going to throw you in at the deep end and get you to start doing all this deep trauma work before you're ready to do it. Healing is a gentle process that takes time. So you've got to be willing to give yourself permission to do it at your own pace. And it doesn't have to be, there's no quick destination, there's no quick fix around healing. And I know maybe people don't really want to hear that. You know, they want to hear, oh, that everything's going to be fine and doing this in you know, you just have six sessions or whatever and it will be fine. It doesn't work like that. It's an ongoing process. And also, because we still live under the system of racism, okay, we still live under the system of racism, which means stuff is always going to come up. Stuff is always going to come up. So there needs to be a healing process that is constantly going to be looking at, number one, clearing out stuff from the past, okay, whether it's intergenerational, whether it's stuff that's gone on in your lifetime, and actually doing the work. This also means that you're going to maintain it as regards to what's going on now, living under the system of racism, okay? So having a safe space to be able to do the work is really, really important. So there needs to be really good boundaries, okay? There needs to be really good boundaries around feeling safe enough to be able to talk. So in the mastermind, we have things like, you know, there are boundaries around how we speak, okay? How we speak to each other. We don't speak to each other, we don't speak to each other, it has to be respectful. It has to be respectful. Hi, thanks for joining. It needs to be respectful. And everybody gets a certain amount of time to be able to speak. And, you know, they don't have, we're not allowed to have people commenting on what other people share. They have to let people speak their truth, because so many of us were raised in homes where we didn't have permission. We weren't allowed to speak up. We weren't allowed to talk about our feelings. We weren't allowed to talk about when we were upset about certain things. It was just kind of seen and not heard type of scenario. And so when you come into a space, a healing space, you need to be able to feel safe that what you say, you're going to be heard and held, and it's going to be accepted, because that is your truth. Okay, that is your truth. And that just having that one boundary around speaking, and I've had loads of feedback from the women that say that is probably the most fundamental thing about the group that I have, about the mastermind, that has been transformative for them, because they've never been in a space where what they say is not going to be judged, or they're not going to get criticized or shamed for something that they've said. So, you know, having those boundaries means that it's safe for them to be able to get vulnerable and say what they need to say. Also, what also makes the space safe is the fact that it's culturally competent. Okay, I talk about things as it relates to living under the system of racism. I'm very specific about what it means. I'm very specific about talking about stuff that relates to black women. Okay, so if you're a black woman, I'm going to be talking specifically about issues that are directly impact you, which hence this live stream. Okay, these are issues that are specifically related to us. And the other thing is being trauma informed as well. A lot of us have experienced a lot of trauma around other black women. Be it, you know, a lot of us were raised in homes where it was okay for us to get beaten and told it was discipline. It's trauma. You know, it's trauma. And whether we consciously realise that or not, that is going to have an impact on our ability to allow ourselves to get close to other black women. And this was my story, and this is something that I'm working through at the moment with my therapist. I'm doing a lot of trauma work at the moment with my therapist, and even though it's been really hard, it's been so transformative. It's been so transformative, because I'm really beginning to understand just how embedded and how deep some of those wounds are. And I also understand that, you know, some of the stuff that I'm working through is probably not even mine. As in, a lot of that's probably been passed down through my ancestors. And obviously, because I'm the first person in my family that's really doing this work any depth, and also with the training to become a therapist and all of that kind of stuff, you know, I'm probably processing stuff that's been passed down from my ancestors from the plantations. So that's why it feels really intense. That's why it feels really overwhelming. But the work has to start somewhere. You know, the work has to start somewhere. And also, the good thing about me doing this work is that I understand so much more about trauma now. I understand so much more about racial trauma, about intergenerational trauma, because not only am I experiencing it and I'm processing it a lot for myself, I'm also learning about it, I'm reading about it, and obviously as part of my therapist training, it's part of that conversation as well. So it's very, very powerful, but it's so important, again, as well, because we're living under the system of racism. Racism is trauma. Racism is trauma. So to be culturally competent, to be trauma informed, to have boundaries, okay, and to work at your pace means that the space is going to be so much safer for you to be able to not only explore how you feel about yourself as a black woman, but also what happens when you start feeling anxious and overwhelmed and feeling mistrustful around other black women. You can start to really have these conversations and really look at what's underneath it, and how you can begin to start to trust yourself, not just other black women, but start to trust yourself, because that's ultimately what this is about. That's ultimately what this is about. We've been so beaten down emotionally, physically, spiritually, whether it's under the system of racism or within your family, that we don't trust ourselves. We don't have a relationship with ourselves because we've never been allowed to. And so that's where the work begins. The self-love is really about you know, us coming together and really thinking about doing this for ourselves first and foremost before we can start to do the work with others. So Auntie Chi saying, I'm running a Melon and Feminine walking group, and your word is so relevant. I saw that on the website, Chi. So I'll have to get the dates actually for that, because I'd actually quite like to come, depending if it's not, depends on where it is and stuff. So I'm going to look at that. But yeah, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense as black women, and these are conversations that are hard for us to have as black women. But I get so many people in my inbox talking to me about it, asking me about it, and also it comes up so much in the group as well, because it's painful. It's painful, you know. It's painful for us to talk about these things, but they're so important. If we're going to do this healing work, we have to be willing to have the conversation about it, you know. Yeah. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to ask you, Auntie Chi, I'm gonna contact you soon, because I want to do a live stream with you about the retreat and stuff this year as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about coming to the whatchamacallit, the camping thing. So that's going to be really good. So great. So that's great. So the other thing, okay. So what was that? So that's the cultural. Let me see. Culturally competent. So number 4. Okay, number 4. Getting sidetracked. Number 4 is having a cultural context, and I kind of explained that in number 3. Okay, so you have to be able to willing to have the conversation and understand the context. Okay, understand the context of why is it that you don't trust black women? Because obviously, with everything that's gone on around living under the system of within your family or whatever, you also have to remember that not trusting other black women is also part of what it means to live under the system of racism. Okay, that's internalized racism. Okay, that's internalized racism. The fact that you don't trust other women, other black women, I should say, is internalized racism. So really understanding that cultural context and how it actually started from the plantation, okay, how it actually started from the plantation is also going to give context, okay, to why it is that you don't trust black women. A really important part of the work that I do, okay, a really important part of the work that I do is giving you a holistic view, okay, a holistic view of your pain. So you understand it from within yourself, okay, you understand why you treat yourself a certain way, you understand how it's happened within your family or in your relationships, okay, and then you understand it from a social perspective, living under the system of racism. When you understand it holistically like that, it just makes so much more sense. It's going to make so much more sense to you, because sometimes when I start working with people, they have an idea about what they think it might be, but when I give them a holistic view, especially when I give them the scenarios of within a cultural context and help them understand how it came from the plantation and how our thinking, you know, our thinking makes us behave and see things a certain way that are not good for us, okay? So it's important for us to understand the context, okay? It's important for us to understand the context so that we can begin to unpick it and understand, okay, well, that bit doesn't belong to me. That bit belongs to racism. That bit belongs to white supremacy. That ain't mine. This bit belongs to the relationship between me and my mum, and this bit belongs to the relationship between me and myself. Okay, this bit belongs to me and myself. So it's really, really important, okay, to open yourself up to to understanding it from a holistic perspective. So somebody's saying it's 2:36 a.m. and I want to listen to this all the way, but I need to rest. It'll be up on my my page, so don't worry. Don't worry, I'll be up on my page afterwards so you can listen to it then. But thanks for joining anyway, and have a good sleep. So that's number 4, okay, the cultural context. So the last one I want to share is what happens if you get triggered in the session, okay? What happens if you get triggered in the session? So this is an important one, because sometimes women, hi Sophia, thanks for joining. Sometimes women will be afraid to come to the session in the beginning, okay, because they're afraid of what's going to happen, because they don't trust people and all the rest of it. They're scared they're going to get triggered. But then if they do come to a session, then they don't know what to do. If they actually come, what happens when they come into the session? What happens if somebody says something, it triggers them, you know? And I think these are some of the, I'm going to share a few things now, what you can do if you're in this session, you're with other black women and you're starting to feel triggered, okay? The first thing to do is breathe, okay? And start to get curious, okay? Get curious about what feelings are coming up. Just where is the anxiety showing up in your body, okay? What can be done? What can be done to as somebody saying, what can be done with self to prepare to join a session? Is just to allow yourself to get curious. Get curious, Auntie Chi. You just get curious, and you think about, okay, well, why am I getting anxious? Is it something that's happened in the present, or is something that from my past that's driving this behaviour, that's driving how I'm feeling? And I know for me personally, a lot of it was stuff that happened in my past that I was bringing into the present that I hadn't processed. So it's just about being curious, observing the thoughts. What stories am I telling myself about the black women that I'm about to join the session with? Because sometimes it might not be nothing, the women in the group might not have done nothing, but it's because of your old stuff that's unhealed that's being brought into the session. Your fears and your anxieties are being brought into the session. So it's about just being conscious and being just exploring it and being curious about, okay, so maybe I'm feeling it in my shoulders, I'm starting to feel a little bit tense, maybe I've got a little something going on in my stomach that feels a little bit tense, and I don't really know what that's about. And maybe, if you want to, before the session as well, it might be useful to journal it out. Write it out. I'm feeling anxious because blah, 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 blah. I'm feeling scared because of blah, 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 blah. And I'm feeling these things because this happened to me with my relationship with my mom, or what happened at school, or whatever it is. And in the circle, there are always opportunities to be able to share what's going on. And I always encourage the women to share how they're feeling. And so there's been loads of occasions in the past where women have shared, I felt really anxious about coming into the space today, because I feel vulnerable about sharing this with other black women because of what happened to me with blah, 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 or whatever it is. And women can share those things. They can share those things. And also, if you've written about it in your journal before you come into the session, it means that you've already started to process it and start to get some context around how it's going to work, how what the anxiety is. That's a powerful way to begin with your own self-love process and your self-awareness process, okay? That's really what knowledge of self is. Knowledge of self is not just about pyramids, okay? Knowledge of self is not just about periods. That's about identity, that's about history, and that's important. But another important part of knowledge of self that's even more fundamental is getting to know how all of these things have impacted how you are in the here and now. Okay, being in the here and now is really, really, really important. Okay, so you come into the space, you breathe, you take your time, you get curious about what's going on in your body, what's going on in your head, what's going on in your thoughts. Other stories that you're telling yourself, is it true or is it historical? Is it something that you've internalized via a black woman stereotype or whatever it is? And one of the things that they say quite a lot in recovery, I've been in recovery since 2009, they talk about if you're hysterical about something, it's historical. Okay, if you're hysterical, it's historical. So again, it's another opportunity for you to just get curious about what's going on in terms of your thoughts, in terms of your feelings, okay? These are all really, really important things. So that's it. Those are the 5 things, okay? Those are the 5 things that are really important for you to think about if you're anxious about healing with black women when you don't trust them, okay? So I'm going to go through the 5 things really quickly again. So the first one is focus on what's coming alive in you rather than what's going on in the group. Okay, that's the first thing. Is it an old wound? Is it mum wound? Is it a sibling wound? Is it something happened at school? Whatever it is. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, what impact has it had on your cultural self-esteem? Okay, what are you telling yourself? What are the stories that you're telling yourself about what happened to you, what was done to you? Okay, the third thing is you need to find a safe space. Okay, if you're interested in joining the mastermind, you can click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Number 3, find a safe healing space, okay? That is culturally competent, trauma-informed, and has boundaries, okay? That is going to work at your pace, okay? That's number 3. Number 4, you need a cultural context. Okay, you need people to be able to understand. You need the group to be able to be sharing with you how it relates to you as being a black woman. Okay, How does it relate to you being a black? How does the healing relate to you being a black woman? And number 5, if you just get triggered in the session, or wherever you get triggered in, maybe you get triggered wherever, breathe, observe your thoughts, okay? Get curious about what's going on rather than reacting to it. Just pause and breathe and just observe yourself. Get curious about how you're responding to it, okay? Remember that if you're hysterical, it's historical, okay? And if it feels safe enough, especially if you're in the mastermind, it will be safe enough for you to do that. But if you're not in the mastermind, you need to question whether it's safe for you to share what's going on for you. But if you're in the mastermind, or you're with a therapist or whatever, share your anxieties. Because if you share them, you're processing them, you're getting out the anxiety, and it's better out than in. Okay? The more you don't talk about it, the more the anxiety is going to get worse. It will get more. It becomes more powerful. Okay? It becomes more painful. So give yourself permission to be able to process it, to vocalize it. You know, I'm sure there'll be loads of you that will watch this and kind of relate to it, and it will help to give you some context as to, number 1, why you find it difficult to heal with black women, why you don't trust black women, and there's also loads of solutions in there as to what you can do to move it forward. Okay, so that's it. That's my session for today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any questions or anything, please drop them in the comments below if you're watching on the replay or whether you're watching live. If you don't feel comfortable dropping them in the comments, then you can send me a direct message, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. And that's it. Take your time today. Take time with yourself. Take time with your sisters. And I will see you next time. Take care. I'm Chi. I'll be in touch. All right? Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.